Okay, so we do have an update for the Nintendo Switch 2. This one's coming in from Jeff Grubb. If you haven't seen my previous videos on the Nintendo Switch 2 or the next gen Nintendo Switch, please make sure you check them out. I'll have links for you guys in the description below. But essentially in this update, to celebrate the 6th year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch, which we'll talk about a very influential 6 years of the Nintendo Switch and 6 big games, so make sure you stick around to the second half of this video where I'll be discussing that. But essentially for the 6th year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch, Jeff Grubb was on the Kind of Funny Games Daily to discuss that, and he essentially gave a little bit of information on the Nintendo Switch 2, or at least what he's hearing rumor-wise. So I wanted to go over that with you guys, then also give my 2 cents on a couple different things that I'm hearing, in addition to what this could be, because I think there was definitely people that were overthinking it quite a bit. So let's go ahead and check out what he had to say first.
It's still on the table that we get something Switch, not Pro, but maybe even not necessarily Switch 2. Maybe something like in between that is definitely like an actual upgrade in terms of hardware, but in terms of the way that Nintendo positions it, it feels like they could try to do like to straddle the line a little bit and do like a super Switch that continues the generation in a way that is more significant than they've done since the Game Boy Color, but even more significant than that. And the thinking there clearly is they have Nintendo Switch Online, they have a lot of subscribers, they have a lot of people who are spending a lot of money buying video games, and they don't want to disrupt or lose any of that momentum because all the other companies have figured out how to maintain it. And they don't want to be the one company like restarting from zero. We all know that they've said as much publicly in earnings reports that they don't want to restart that. The whole idea is to now build on that going forward.
Okay, so it's a little bit interesting in terms of what he has to say, and there's some historical context that I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know about because it was before your time. A lot of you guys might be newer gamers. You didn't grow up with the Game Boy or the Game Boy Color or kind of what those systems were or what Nintendo did. So essentially, and what Jeff Grubb had to say here, he stated that he feels that it's going to be somewhere in between what you would see typically from Nintendo with a Nintendo Switch upgrade, like a Switch Pro, or like a Nintendo Switch 2 or full next generation system. And he likened it to Game Boy Color, but a bit more advanced than that. Now, for those who don't know, guys like myself that's on the Spawncast RGT, he has a very big problem with people saying that the Game Boy Color wasn't actually a next step, a new system. Nintendo classifies it as a Game Boy, that it's still in the same line and they count the sales with it. However, Game Boy Color had tons of exclusive games and it was a stronger system. You just saw games that were far more advanced, looked better, everything was upgraded quite a bit, maybe even past what you would say is a pro version of a system. So for example, Nintendo's done a DSi where they've upgraded things and you didn't see as many exclusive games or the difference in those games, or even a new Nintendo 3DS, which is an updated Nintendo 3DS. You didn't see as much stuff as you saw with Game Boy Color, which got hundreds of exclusive games and is definitely stronger when it comes down to the system. So he stated in that video that it's going to maybe even be a bit more than that. And I personally feel that that would be enough because the Game Boy Color obviously is a big jump above what the Game Boy was. And essentially what he's saying here is that maybe it's not going to be this all out next thing, but they want to incorporate what they're doing with the Nintendo Switch. So it's going to feel familiar and it's going to be familiar to people who already have the Nintendo Switch. They can easily take their old Nintendo Switch, pick up the new system, easily transfer over your account, transfer over your games, play your Nintendo Switch titles that you already own, and then also pick up new games, download patches for updates, and also just get big games that are made specifically for that system, which is why I think he used the Game Boy Color, because that system had so many exclusive games compared to like a DSi or compared to a new Nintendo 3DS, where those definitely seem more just like slight little upgrades. So he was specific in not saying Nintendo Switch Pro and more like better than what a Game Boy Color was. So to me, that's definitely sufficient, and that's what I felt the Nintendo Switch 2, quote unquote, would be. It's not going to be this super crazy type of thing where it's completely different than what they're doing. They're going to want to keep the ecosystem, and that's something that I'm so glad Jeff Grubb said, because we've had people, even content creators, sit there and proclaim that Nintendo could completely wipe out everything that they've done with the Nintendo Switch, completely start over, and that's ridiculous. They literally stated in their investor meeting that that's not what they want to do. They want to continue what they have because they have millions of gamers that are subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online. They want to continue that and not have to start over. They have a bunch of people, millions, and they still make so much money off of the Nintendo Switch, despite what any content creator or people will try to convince you that Switch is dead or it's dying or nobody's buying things. That's just not correct when you look overall at software sales and even hardware sales. Definitely dipping from what it was before, but still so many new people getting into the mix. It would be ridiculous for Nintendo just to say, nope, we don't want that anymore, let's just move on. And they haven't stated anything like that in all of the briefings and documentation that's been put out there. I think they want a smooth transition over to the next generation or to the next thing and provide something for third-party developers a bit beefier to put their games on, in addition to having their games run a bit better as well. But I wouldn't expect a PS5 Pro portable or something like that, and we'll see what they do going forward. I will also add this: I do think that they're going to add some future proofing to the system with the dock. I think that essentially you're going to be able to get something with that dock or upgrade that dock in the future in order to add more power or do other things because of the patents that Nintendo has put out there. So I think that, yes, at launch, it's going to be whatever it is. It's going to be a nice system. It's going to be powerful. I think it's going to be able to run games great. It's not going to be a PS5 portable though. And I think that in the future, you might be able to upgrade things with the dock. That's what I'm guessing based off of some of the things that they did in this generation with the Nintendo Switch and the new dock for the Nintendo Switch, and also some of the patents that we've seen before. But essentially this news seems right around with what I've been predicting and maybe what Nintendo will do. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But I also wanted to get into the Nintendo Switch 6th anniversary, which was March 3rd, 2017. It's a day after, as of the time that this video is going up, but I'm recording it on March 3rd, so it's the thought that counts. So I wanted to go over the 6 most influential games, for me at least, when it comes to the Nintendo Switch over the 6 years that it's been on the market. Now, this is just my list, guys, and there's plenty of other games that are influential and that were awesome and sold really well. So I do want to go over those when it comes to like a honorable mention. So games like Pokemon Legends, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Ring Fit Adventure, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Bayonetta 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Octopath Traveler, the original, Metroid Dread, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and so many other titles that just really helped prop the system up either early, mid, or late in its life, and really gave life to certain types of genres that maybe weren't really explored as much. So I do think that it's awesome to see so many cool and different type of games that have made a real impact on the Nintendo Switch's success and gamers being happy and picking it up. All of these games were multi-million sellers, or at least a million seller bare minimum, so people definitely loved what they were playing there. Now, let's go ahead and get into the 6 games here. I'm going to start off with Fire Emblem Three Houses. And the reason why I have this game above in terms of Fire Emblem Engage is because Engage just came out, and that's more of an anniversary game to celebrate the Fire Emblem universe, whereas Three Houses was that next big step for them when it comes to console level Fire Emblem as a major franchise, and it delivered. As a strategy RPG, you don't see games selling like Fire Emblem Three Houses to have over 3.8 million, and that's as of like 2 years ago plus, so it's probably 4 million plus, and to get the reviews that it did and how it was as an impact in terms of the Switch itself, getting so many people into Fire Emblem and help pushing the system as well when it comes to core strategy RPGs. So Fire Emblem Three Houses definitely is one of the more influential games to me on the Nintendo Switch. Next up is Astral Chain. Now, this is a collaboration game with Platinum Games, but as Nintendo's new IP. They own the IP outright. And I think that this game was so important because it showed that a third or outside developer, if you actually plan and make the game for the Nintendo Switch, you can have beautiful results. You can make something that looks incredible, because this was 2019. This was only 2 years after the Switch launched, and you didn't see a lot of games like this from outside studios, outside games, not Nintendo's IP, right? You didn't see that at all. So Astral Chain just came about and blew us away with its gameplay, with its graphics, with its sound and music. It was incredible. It was a great piece of tech when it comes to the game overall, and the gameplay is like nothing else on the Nintendo Switch, nothing else on any other platform. You've never played a game like this, and I think that the innovation that it brought to the table, in addition to new ideas and another successful franchise for Nintendo and Platinum Games, selling over 1 million units and them saying it was a success right away, is absolutely huge when it comes to Nintendo Switch and when it released back in 2019. Now, next up is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, this is a more recent title, but I feel that Xenoblade Chronicles 3, to me, really showed that open world RPGs can be done on the Nintendo Switch in a huge type of way. We saw things that you didn't even see on other stronger platforms accomplished in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, being able to have 6 actual party members that you can switch on the fly, with the 7th supporting character on top of multiple enemies on screen, and seamless transitions in and out of battle with enemies in the background, and all holding up this time with the frame rate, unlike Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where there was issues there. They built this crazy type of tech into Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and they weave the narrative of games spanning a decade plus all into one, with a climactic finish that honestly is like nothing else. So as a story and storytelling, gameplay wise, this game innovated as a big open world RPG on the Nintendo Switch like no other title has done, with big team-based RPGs. You just don't see anything like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Obviously, it's a multi-million seller. It's going on 2 million units sold at this point. So I definitely think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3, for everything that it did at the time, absolutely deserves it to be on this list from a technical perspective, from a gameplay perspective, and what it did overall. Next up is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is the ultimate fighting game when it comes down to it. The crossover. This is the ultimate crossover when it comes down to it. There's no other official crossover that has been able to do what Super Smash Bros. Has done. 30 million units plus sold worldwide. In addition to being able to have all of these characters from all of these universes fit like it was supposed to happen. Sometimes when you see characters from different universes, they look so awkward, like Project Cross Zone or something. But the artists and what they were able to do with the stages and the music, and put all of these characters with varying different levels and types and styles of arts into this game, and all look specifically built for this game Smash, to have their own unique identifier, in my opinion, was probably one of the greatest things that I have ever seen. And there is nothing on the market like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, not even close. And it's easily one of the most influential games on the Nintendo Switch, and one of the most influential games of all time, considering what they were able to do, what they're able to sell, and how they capped it off with the legendary character like Sora, and even having guys like Sephiroth in there, and Castlevania, and Persona, and Dragon Quest. I mean, these are just legendary franchises, and they were able to get it done. So I think that this is something that obviously is huge, or was huge, for the Nintendo Switch in the second year of the system's life, to have this type of game. Absolutely crazy. Now, next up is Super Mario Odyssey. You gotta have a Mario game, and this, in my opinion, is still the best Mario game on the Nintendo Switch, even though it came out at nearly the launch of the system, that first calendar year. Super Mario Odyssey still looks incredible. I would say, dare to say, that it looks better than most of the games released on the Nintendo Switch at this point, and it looks better than even a lot of the cartoony type of style platformers and everything on other systems as well. Like, we haven't seen when it comes to Super Mario Odyssey, graphics and performance with that level on the Nintendo Switch in the platforming genre since Super Mario Odyssey with a big 3D platformer. We've seen awesome stuff in 2D, but Super Mario Odyssey took it to the next level with its new Donk City and with its music and with its gameplay and the outfits and all the different moons and the structure and the boss fights, and everything just took it to the next level. And it was that next major Mario game that really hit that impact like Galaxy hit, right? It really had that feeling of like a Galaxy, where we kind of missed that a little bit with Super Mario 3D World, which that game was still incredible. It was still great, and they were pulling for more of a local multiplayer. So obviously they're not going to go all out when it comes to how the game looks. But I think that Super Mario Odyssey really brought back that feeling that people had with Mario 64, people had with Galaxy, even with Sunshine to a degree. So I think that's what it brought back, and it really solidified the Nintendo Switch as being a massive hit success. The system was already doing incredible, but I think Odyssey really just cemented that and made sure that it was going to be an all-time classic. Now, last but definitely not least is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is the game that defined the Nintendo Switch, despite being a dual launching game that is on the Wii U. And I try not to put too many Wii U games on here. Obviously, I could have spoke about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that has just been doing incredible, but I really wanted to discuss games that were built for the Nintendo Switch. But I think that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a very unique factor here because it was a dual release for the launch of the system. So much is pinned on the success of this game. If Breath of the Wild wasn't what it was, we could have a completely different story to tell with the Nintendo Switch, a completely different one. So the fact that Breath of the Wild was as good as it was, and it was the fact that you can play that quality of game in 2017 anywhere that you want, was something that we had not seen before from any type of portable device or anything that's even considered that. We're not talking about little pocket PCs where you're sitting there and ripping off other games or playing games that were built for PC and they kind of move it over. But in 2017, to play something like that anywhere and that quality in terms of how good it was, there was nothing else like it on the market. There was no other game that you can pick up and play and say, okay, I can play this anywhere. And that game is a game that at that time you needed to play anywhere because you were addicted. So if you were traveling or if you were on the bus or if you were going somewhere else or playing lying down, I just know that I played that game like crazy. I think I put like 10 plus hours in on day one when I went out there and bought it. And Breath of the Wild really carried the Nintendo Switch to be as successful as it was. And still to this day, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a top seller around the world. To me, that just goes to show you its staying power and what it did for the Nintendo Switch. The fact that it's still around, still selling systems, and still doing incredibly well sales-wise just tells you everything that you need to know. Blowing out pretty much every other Legend of Zelda game in sales-wise easily. So to me, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the most important Nintendo Switch game. It's the game that started everything out and defines the system as its signature move or signature game. So to me, Breath of the Wild, it's still that game. So what do you guys think about everything that we discussed here? Let me know in the comment section. And of course, check out my previous videos where I discussed Nintendo Switch 2 and other great games on the Nintendo Switch if you want to know more about what I like to play on the system for the anniversary. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next video. Peace.